listening to The Trade Gods.
What's going on, Player Profiler faithful? It's your boy Jason, and we've got the Trade Gods coming to you right now. And today I am joined by a very special guest, the one, the only, Matt Babich, taking a break from the round table, hopping on over to the Gods table. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling great. It's always a pleasure to come on the Trade Gods podcast. I mean, I think I've been on either 2 or 3 times, and each time it's just been an absolute blast. So, obviously miss Matty. Hope he's doing well on this fine Wednesday. But happy to join you, Jason, to talk some dynasty trades for the good people today.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, our friend, the Trade God brethren, our good friend, the host of this show, Matty Kiwoom, he is in a very great move right now. He is moving with his family to a bigger place, so he'll have a nicer studio, little setup next time we see him. So it's all very exciting stuff. Wish him the best while moving. That's never fun, but what comes after the move is definitely fun as you set up all the new stuff and get situated. It's a fun part of life.
Absolutely. I thought you were about to say that our good friend is still in the running for Scott Fish Bowl 13 champion.
He is.
One of the few Player Profiler members left, but it's I know my team. Did you make the playoffs? I didn't make the playoffs.
I did. I'm still alive too. I'm still kicking. So both Trade Gods, we're still kicking.
The fact that I got what I deserve. I put my season on Deshaun Watson. I got what I deserved. I got what I deserved. I know what I got myself into. I earned it.
At least you can admit it, right?
I said at the draft, I was like, I'm either going a long way or I'm not making the playoffs.
It's all right.
But
I mean,
we went 9-1 in our last 10, but still couldn't. That's how bad our start was.
Yeah.
9-1 out of our last 10, and we did not hit the 13 game threshold.
Wow. So you went 9-1 really without Deshaun.
Yeah. The team randomly caught fire. I had Stafford and Baker, so it's not like I was. But there was, anyway, this isn't a Scott Fish Bowl show.
No trading allowed in Scott Fish Bowl, unfortunately. One day, Scott Fish, if you're listening, somehow figure out how to make trading. I don't know how you do it. I understand it's a whole tournament thing, but hey, us Trade Gods want some trading going on at the Scott Fish Bowl. But as you've said, that's not what we're here for. We're here to break down some trades, and it is now heading into week 14. The season has flown by. In a blink of an eye, we are now here at week 14. We've got just a few more weeks ahead of us. And for most leagues, we are heading into the playoffs. So this isn't, hey, pick up this player to help you make the playoffs. This is get this player to help you in the playoffs. And we're also going to talk about a player that you need to ditch before the year ends. This is it. The 2023 is the last time they will have this value. And on the opposite end, in honor of Matty Kiwoom, going back to the game plan, bag of tricks, going into the bargain bin. Currently, right now, 2023 bargains that will not be so cheap in 2024. So all that and more coming up on the Trade Gods. Before we get into that, but we need to hear from Bet Openly. Check them out.
Hey, so many ask me, what's wrong with sportsbooks? Why so many of them fail? The answer is simple. They don't innovate. They're just casino sportsbooks on a phone. That's all they've been. There are a few that are doing a good job. We partner with them. Most of them, not so much. Until Bet Openly came along. Bet Openly said, hey, we're going to innovate. We're going to do something groundbreaking. We're going to have peer-to-peer betting in all states, and you pay 1%. When you win, you pay just 1% on your winnings. You heard that right. It's 1%. With code Underworld, you qualify for just that 1% transaction fee on Bet Openly. It gives you ultimate flexibility to set your own lines and browse lines that others have set. Think about it. That's what betting should be, and now that is the reality. BetOpenly.com. The code is Underworld. Check it out.
Definitely go check out our friends at Bet Openly. Some great stuff. You can find some of the best odds and lines over there. And, there's no house advantage or anything like that, so go check that out today. Now,
yeah, you get the chance to put your money where your mouth is. People who are in the Twitter mentions, our guys, Ahan Runkta, Trevor Tipton, Billy Muzio, Podfather. I'm missing some others, but Player Profiler's finest is betting on Bet Openly every week. So if you think that you're smarter than the guys, on Twitter, smarter than the big boys, put your money up on Bet Openly.
Yeah, I mean, like, because these people are creating their own lines. It's some really, really cool stuff that they're going on out there. They can say, hey, I think this. You can come challenge me if you disagree. Really great platform. So go check that out. But we're here to talk about some trades. And the first category we've got for you tonight is some players to ditch before the year ends. I'm going to go ahead before we get into going player by player. I did want to give the players that we will be talking about. I'm going to be talking about Austin Ekeler. Matt Babich, you've got yourself some Keaton Mitchell action. And I shot Matty Kiwoom with text. I was like, hey, these are the categories we're going to talk about. I know you're not showing up tonight, but I know you want to give the people some advice. So he's saying to go ahead and get rid of your Texans running backs before it's too late, as he believes their value is going to change. So, Matt, I'm going to throw it to you. Why is Keaton Mitchell someone you need to get rid of?
I got a little phrase for you. It's 3 words. Return on investment. He was nothing. His value was nothing.
Yep.
And now he is RB 27 per our consensus check of keep trade cut. That is about as sweet of a deal as you can get with a player like Keaton Mitchell.
Yep.
And the hype is fun. He's a fun player to root for. He's on a fun team to watch, a run-heavy team. But the odds of Keaton Mitchell increasing his value from RB27 are slim to none. And if you get the opportunity to pick up a 4th, 5th round pick in your rookie drafts, maybe an undrafted free agent, and flip him for a 3rd, a 2nd, whatever it might be, you take that every day of the week, because then you're getting more solidified assets in the future that are of a higher probability to break out and be an elite dynasty cornerstone asset. And so Keaton Mitchell, when I was scrolling through the consensus rankings, it just stuck out like a sore thumb. Like RB27, he hasn't he hasn't logged a game with more than 10 carries this season yet. And that's a lot of hype for somebody who hasn't gotten a lot of run in the NFL, isn't the starter on his own team. And even next year, the incumbent starter, J.K. Dobbins, will be returning. Now, his health is a big question mark. But the point is, there's a lot of people cannibalizing touches in the Baltimore backfield, Lamar Jackson included.
Yes.
It just makes a lot of sense if you can get out. It feels like the value is because of the end of season RB wasteland. And if this were all happening in September, he wouldn't be Dynasty RB27, but maybe I'm wrong. Either way, feels like right now is the perfect time to sell on Keaton Mitchell, especially if you're not a contender. There's no point in holding on to him if you're not a contender.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Keaton Mitchell is a very strange character to have popped out, at this point of the season. And I mean, it makes sense. We've had the hype build from players similar to him, Devon Achane, for example. And now the Ravens backfield, you mentioned J.K. Dobbins, it's basically open. I mean, Gus Edwards scoring touchdowns, but Keaton Mitchell's been the fun, explosive player that everyone's latching onto. But you've mentioned it. It's clutter. You've got Lamar Jackson. You've got Gus Edwards. You've got Justice Hill. You've got Keaton Mitchell. And sure, Keaton Mitchell's a really good football player. I mean, we've seen some good plays from him, some explosiveness. But I think I'm with you here in that you can definitely get a much better return than what you're going to get fantasy football production-wise, especially as we start looking to 2024 and this team is completely different next year. And to add to that, you can use this opportunity where everyone talks about with rookies coming out of the bye week, they're about to get an uptick. And the week going into the bye week, Keaton Mitchell actually out-touched everyone. It was close. He had like 11 touches to 9 touches to 6 touches. But still, you can use that as an argument to get off Keaton Mitchell. And so we have dug into the Player Profiler Discord for this one. We saw a trade. This is from MJC21. He traded Keaton Mitchell, a 2024 second, and a 2024 fifth, and got Alvin Kamara in a 12-team Superflex half PPR league.
That's how you do trades. That is how you do trades. Last time I was on this podcast, it was you, Seth, and myself, and Alvin Kamara was another subject of a trade. And my opinion stays firm. If you can get Alvin Kamara in a trade, it's more than likely a good trade. So you're getting the RB4 I would be the first to tell you he's probably going to be a top 12 RB next season, as long as the landscape in New Orleans stays the same.
Yeah.
And you get him for a undrafted free agent, 4th, 5th round rookie pick, and a late 2nd and a 5th. This is obviously a contender trading for this. So back 2nd round pick and a 5th with Keaton Mitchell. The team B got sauced on this one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on the Kamara side for sure. And so is the Player Profiler Trade Analyzer, favoring the Alvin Kamara side by 16 points. So it feels a little closer. I did want to say that on Discord, they did mention these are late seconds. I didn't really want to put like the 2nd and a 10, 11. Like I didn't want to pick a 2nd. So I just put 2nd. So that could, be valued a little bit higher.
Yeah,
so
but it won't sway it too much.
Yeah. I think even swing it even more in the Alvin Kamara favor on the Trade Analyzer. And I mean, I'm with you. Alvin Kamara to me, and we look at his stats right now. He's number 1 in target share with 21.1%. He's number 1 in targets with 69. Nice. He's number 1 in receptions with 60, getting 6.7 receptions a game. And he's number 1 in expected fantasy points per game, turning that into 20.9 fantasy points per game right now. Nothing slowing down. He's killing it. And you already mentioned he's probably still going to be top 12 next season. I do want to ask you this question about Alvin Kamara, because we agree wholeheartedly that Alvin Kamara's side of the trade is winning here. Why isn't Alvin Kamara considered in the realm of Derrick Henry, of Austin Ekeler, of Christian McCaffrey? Why not?
I don't know. I mean, obviously age 28 has something to do with it, but truly, the way I recall it is his value cratered with the legal situation. Yeah. And for whatever reason, it still has never recovered.
Yeah, it hasn't.
And it clearly doesn't make any sense to me, because it doesn't matter who's quarterbacking this offense. Alvin Kamara is going to command targets. And like you said, 6 receptions a game, 20 fantasy points per game. I mean, he's been doing this over and over and over again. And then if I remember correctly, 2021 was a bad year for Kamara, if I remember correctly. And there was, this weird year where he wasn't getting the receptions, and they were force feeding him more runs, and that's not his game. So he wasn't looking very good. And so I think it's the culmination of that, the expected RB decay after their age apex, and then the legal situation that all just compounded his value further and further and further down. And I'm looking at the list of running backs here on Keep Trade Cut. So Kamara's 20. I'm going to list these running backs going up, and I want you to tell me when we stop favoring Alvin Kamara in Dynasty.
Okay.
Brian Robinson.
Kamara.
Zach Charbonnet.
Kamara.
David Montgomery.
Kamara.
It's getting closer.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard.
I think I'm going to have to go Tony Pollard, but that's a whole other subject right now.
Right. So that's kind of where we draw the line then. RB16, RB15. That's the reason why he's not in the CMC Derrick Henry tier, because we haven't been able to get him above Tony Pollard at RB16. Or I think I might still favor Kamara over Javonte Williams at RB15, but then we go Rashad White.
I might honestly take Kamara, but that's just we'll talk about later in the show. I believe Rashad White got involved in a trade we'll be discussing, but I don't know if he's going to continue being the bell cow in Tampa. He probably has one more season there, I guess. I don't know. I still haven't just decided my feel on the longevity. Whereas Alvin Kamara, I feel like at least next 2 seasons, still like that guy in New Orleans.
So I think this is the importance of having a strategy baked into Dynasty rankings. And that's what Player Profiler does so well, because if I had their page loaded, I don't right now, but we could go and see the difference between win now, neutral, and rebuild rankings. And I'd be willing to bet all of my money that Kamara is ranked above Zach Charbonnet and Brian Robinson in win now Dynasty ranking. So that's the importance of having a stance too. So, being in a neutral mindset, Kamara is not super far off at RB20. I do have one more question to ask you about Keaton Mitchell before we move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Keaton Mitchell's listed between a mid-second and an early second. So Keaton Mitchell or Keon Coleman / Emeka Egbuka next year.
Be totally honest with you, haven't done enough research, but knowing how these things go just in terms of rookie picks and rookie running backs in general, I'm going to go with those guys over Keaton Mitchell. Just because, I mean, people get hyped just in general. Like, regardless of how good those players turn out to be in the NFL, you can draft those players that time next season during your rookie draft and more than likely go trade them for 3 Keaton Mitchells.
Right. Yeah. And like this year's equivalent would have been like Jaden Reed or Keaton Mitchell long term.
Right.
We're
exactly.
Keaton Reed.
Right. And I mean, I don't know. I do want to say about Keaton Mitchell, I think he will have a role here in the Ravens offense. I mean, he's still an explosive athlete, but it's not going to be someone that you can rely on week to week. We're starting to see, which is very interesting to me, we're starting to see boom or bust move away from wide receivers and almost land into this running back territory here, where we're having some running backs have some smash weeks and then some absolute floors. And that used to only be present really in the wide receivers, but we're seeing a switch here, which, speaking of, I have another running back that I want to get rid of here, and mine's out Austin Ekeler. It's just been a rough go for Austin Ekeler, especially the last few weeks. You can look at really everything, but I'm going to highlight a few stats here. Austin Ekeler in 2022 had an 18.9 target share and was averaging 6.3 receptions a game. This season, it's gone down to 14.8% target share and averaging 3.4 receptions per game. So in terms of the receptions per game, cut almost in half, which is not what you want to see, especially in PPR leagues. And not just that, his effectiveness as a runner. He had 4.8 evaded tackles per game last year and was number 1 in both points per game and expected points per game, bringing in 21.9 points per game total. This year, 2.7 evaded tackles per game. So again, just about half the amount of explosiveness he was last season. Has the 3rd highest expected points per game. So we're still expecting Austin Ekeler to do a ton. But he's taken those 3rd most expected points per game and turned it into the 15th most points per game, which is just negative expected points added. It's not good. It shows that his effectiveness is gone, and he's only averaging 14.3 points per game, which of course is not that bad. If you were getting 14.3 every single week, but really that's compounded because he's had 3 less than 10-point games the last few weeks with 20-point games before that. And he's looking sluggish too. Like, you can go watch some of his runs for the last few weeks and he just does not look like the Austin Ekeler that he used to be. So I'm just looking to ditch him, especially if I'm not contending. Now, I know if you're not contending, you've moved on from him, but I do think that contenders especially will be looking at Austin Ekeler. He's got a pretty good playoff schedule coming up for him as someone that can throw teams over the top for their championship. So I'm just looking to move on from him because, I mean, he's 29. His contract's almost up. He already had that dispute this season. What team's going to take a chance on him? I just don't see him having that much value in 2024. Matt, do you have anything that you feel about Austin Ekeler before I show off a trade involving him?
He's 28.5. All right, relax. Okay. On the 29. I want to agree with you. When I first saw your entry, first of all, Ekeler popped into my head when I when I saw the show sheet, and then, he was also listed on the show sheet. So I was like, oh yeah, I kind of agree with that. But then I can't help but fear that this inefficiency is due to the high ankle sprain.
It's possible.
It's definitely possible. It's also could be very likely that, he is deteriorating and he's becoming less effective. And maybe there's, some sort of combination of both, the high ankle injury late in your career, maybe that's not something, you come back to, but Ekeler's always kind of been a health freak and maybe, sometimes given a slight injury prone label, but a durable back over the course of his career. And he had 16 carries, 4 receptions for 164 yards and a touchdown, 26 fantasy points, RB2 on the week in week 1 versus Miami, getting a less than 60% snap share because of his ankle injury in the 3rd quarter. I'm torn. If I'm holding Austin Ekeler and I'm a contender, I'm likely trying to get a trade to somebody, like another contender who believes in him, where I can get some short-term assets that I think are going to put me over the top. Because where I will agree with you is that I don't think Ekeler is going to be any sort of league winner for fantasy teams this season. So if I am a contender and I do have the ability to get Ekeler off my roster in terms of, or in exchange for some better short-term assets, I'm absolutely doing it. But in terms of just kind of thinking in a standard 3-year window, I'm hesitant to trade away next year's RB4 because I got scared of an injury.
That's fair. And so I guess, and this is an important topic just in general, especially when we talk about fantasy football trading in general. Just because you trade a player away doesn't necessarily mean you can't get them back. So Matt, you might be someone who would be selling Austin Ekeler right now and then looking to buy him in just a couple weeks, maybe?
Potentially.
Yeah.
I do. It's funny that you say that. My dad in his first dynasty league, he traded away Brandon Ayuk.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of weeks after he started doing well, he's like, man, I really regret trading for Brandon Ayuk.
Mm-hmm.
And a few weeks go by and he just, every time we talked, he just kept saying like, I can't believe I traded Ayuk. Yep. And one day I get a notification on my phone and I was like, he traded for Ayuk again. He just traded for him right back a few weeks later. And that was a year and a half ago. So sometimes that can pay off because Brandon Ayuk's value has skyrocketed this year. But
yeah, definitely. So I did have some names I wanted to talk about before I show off the trade. These are some names I was looking at our rankings that are actually below Austin Ekeler that you might be able to get a cherry on top that I personally like. This is just a Jason thing. But Mike Evans, and then we'll get a little – I'll name a few that I actually really like and then some questionable ones. So Mike Evans, Kyle Pitts, Jaden Reed, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Roshan Johnson, Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth. I feel like you could get a nice cherry on top to get him in terms of our dynasty rankings. Then if you want to get a really, really sneaky with it, there are a couple quarterbacks in Superflex that are below him. Daniel Jones and Kenny Pickett. Now, I don't want to get into it too much, but if you want to take a risk and get a nice cherry on top, those would be some quarterbacks that are fun to target. But I definitely get it. Yeah, we're getting the stink. We're getting the stink look from Matt, which is totally fair. Our trade analyzer, by the way, has Austin Ekeler ranked about the 111 in rookie draft. So I think if you get a second and a nice cherry on top, that's probably where I'd put it. You think they're about end of first?
Oh yeah. If I can sell Austin, if I'm definitely not contending and I can sell Austin Ekeler for a 111, I do it in a heartbeat.
Cool. So this is the trade. Austin Ekeler sent straight up for Mike Evans. How do you feel about it?
I am one of Mike Evans' biggest fans throughout his entire career. I had him on my fantasy team his rookie season, and I've tried to get him on a lot of my fantasy teams throughout his 10-year career. And I firmly believe that he's got another 3 years of this in him. He hasn't really been hindered by injuries in a couple of seasons. He's fought through whatever QB is put behind him. And the hope is, at least, that the quarterback for the Buccaneers is at no worst Baker Mayfield for the next 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get Baker for another year in Tampa. I think he's played well enough. Well enough.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I really was hoping they would give Kyle Trask a chance. They spent a second on him, but I mean, Baker Mayfield is doing like just enough to not move away.
I think this is what they think of Kyle Trask. I think that they're communicating what they think of Kyle Trask for not giving him a chance by now. He probably doesn't have it. I, for one, thought that was a bit of a stretch pick when they made it, but they're going to try again at quarterback. I would assume they're going to be a second round quarterback type of team, not a first round quarter. They're not going to be in the position to take a first round quarterback. But yeah, Mike Evans, he's had the long-term security in my opinion, and he's got the right side of the age for his position.
Definitely. Yeah. We talked about this on the last Trade Gods episode, I believe, maybe a couple ago. But I mean, Mike Evans is only 30, and I put the emphasis on only. That's not crazy old for wide receiver. Of course it's up there, but when we talk about anomalies like Mike Evans, who has 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons, I mean, he's going to be able to be kicking for a while. I mean, we've seen some Hall of Fame caliber wide receivers play past they were 35. So I agree with you wholeheartedly that we have, 3 more seasons of Mike Evans, probably. I saw a video. He was shown by, whoever the Buccaneers social media producer is, a video of him crossing the 1,000 yards again. And Mike Evans was like, I feel like I'm playing the best ball of my career. Still feeling like he's got it. He definitely still has it based on, he has 18.5 points per game, which is number 7 amongst wide receivers right now. So I'm with you on the Mike Evans side for sure. I think that's a great piece and an undervalued piece as well. Let's go ahead. And remind the listeners that our Matty Kiwoom says to get rid of these Texans running backs before it's too late. And then now move on to the players that we believe you need to target for the playoffs. These are the people who are going to help you win your playoff matchups. I'm going to be talking about Nico Collins. Matt, you've got some Cortland Sutton and Christian Watson. And then our very own Matty Kiwoom is looking to get Jackson Smith and Jigba. Really before it's too late. The buy window is closing so fast for Jackson Smith and Jigba. That is right around the corner. You do not have much longer to buy him. So definitely agreeing with him there, especially as we saw last week's kind of breakout performance from him. But Matt, I'll throw it to you. Who do you want to talk about first? Cortland Sutton, Christian Watson?
I'll do Sutton first. So okay. He is wide receiver 44 on Keep Trade Cut. Wide receiver 44, despite being 28 years old, just turned 28 years old. He's at his age apex. Wide receiver 24 on the season, but 44 on Keep Trade Cut. So that discrepancy right there tells me. Now, Sutton isn't a top 24 receiver in Dynasty, but he's got top 24 outlook next season, and he's got top 24 outlook the season after that. So he's probably closer to the mid-30s than the mid-40s. So you can get a little value on top of Cortland Sutton there, and he's the clear number one in this offense. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that at this point. He's running all of the routes. He's getting most of the targets. He's proving his value to Denver every week. There were talks about trading Sutton, and then Sutton started producing, and then the talk shifted fully to Judy. We haven't heard a Cortland Sutton trade rumor all season.
Nope.
And so the likely scenario is that Jerry Judy is gone. Now insert Marvin Mims, who we'll talk about later.
Yes, we will.
But Cortland Sutton will remain the first look in that offense, and he's clearly Wilson's favorite first read.
Yeah.
And 128.4 QBR when targeted for Russell Wilson, number 4 in the league. Sutton's making Russell Wilson look good. So Cortland Sutton's going to keep getting the ball. And so if you can get a top 24 receiver in Dynasty for the rest of the season for wide receiver 40 prices, then I think that's just a smash play. I don't know if you can necessarily get that value because sharper Dynasty managers will understand, look, you're getting a short-term rental out of Cortland Sutton, so he's not really valued this low. He's actually valued, up here, but 90% of leagues aren't necessarily like that. The average league is not necessarily like that. So see what you can get for Cortland Sutton and, pull the trigger if the value's right.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton's one of those players that I've never like wanted too much, but he always just gets it done. Like no matter what, he gets you those fantasy points. And so I think he's a great player to target because for the most part, he's sitting in someone's lineup and they're never over the top about Cortland Sutton. He's like the definition of a guy you put into your lineup because you trust him, but you're never expecting too much. And those players are cheap to acquire, which this one is what he went for in a league, a 2024 second. Now, this was a 14-teamer standard scoring, so not PPR. He went for a second-round pick. This was found on the Player Profiler Trade Finder, so it doesn't say if it's late or early. But I'll ask you this, just standard second. Say it's 206. Where are you siding on that?
Yeah, I think I'm there.
Okay.
I think I would take that's close to the value. So I would say mid-second is pretty much right on value right now. And I would do that. Absolutely. Because you just got, return on investment. If you can get it, 2024 second pick gets you a championship, you do it. You sell your soul for it. Look at the Rams. It's worth it.
No, definitely. I'm with you. If I'm competing, I am sending my second for Cortland Sutton. If I'm not competing, I want a second. So I think that's perfect, right? This is a deal that can very easily get done. This second round pick sent for Cortland Sutton, and he's going to be able to put you over the top in a position where most leagues now have, these wide receiver premiums, and, you're running 2 running backs and like 4 wide receivers on your roster, and Cortland Sutton fits in perfectly for a cheap price. And if you're contending, your second isn't even this mid-second that we're saying is a fair price. We're talking about the 212, hopefully, if this trade works out for you. So I'm definitely with you there. The player I wanted to talk about here is Nico Collins. And first things first, I'm a Michigan Stan, little fanboy here. So been excited for Nico Collins for long enough. finally some Michigan producer other than Mr. Tom Brady does something in the NFL, coming at the cost of an Ohio State quarterback. But it is what it is. We have Nico Collins here, who now has back-to-back games of over 20 points, and on the season has 2 30-plus pointers. It's a fantastic season from him in terms of some ceiling games. He has a 27.6, a 35.8, a 23.4, a 34.1. And in this game where Tank Dell unfortunately picked up a season-ending injury, he had 12 targets. He brought in 9 of them for 191 yards and a touchdown. He's top 10 in points per game, yards per reception, yards per route run, yards per target, expected points added, and his points per target versus man, suggesting that he just knows how to man up on these cornerbacks, really, really boss up these players. And I mean, it's turning into fantasy production. With that injury going his way, I think you need to be targeting Nico Collins. I will add a caveat. They do, I believe, play the Jets this week, which of course puts him against Sauce Gardner. You might be able to press the brakes a little bit, wait till Monday and get him for an even cheaper price than he would be today. But that's if you're feeling a little risky. I mean, sometimes these good players are still going to be able to do well against good corners. But I think Nico Collins, just in general, someone you should get. I would be using these players that are below him in dynasty rankings to target him. So you might have to add something or maybe get it done 1-for-1. But Drake London, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, Javonte Williams, Josh Jacobs, and Cooper Kupp, all below him in dynasty rankings. I think that I would, use those players to try to get him right now, especially if you're contending, trying to get over the top here. And then some players that are actually above him in Superflex dynasty rankings that I think you could get Nico Collins plus for: Sam Howell, Deshaun Watson, Chris Olave, Bryce Young, Jalen Waddle, Puka Nacua, Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, DeAndre Swift, Stephon Diggs, and Rachaad White. Now, I mean, those are some really spicy names there. So a lot of times it's going to come down to what that plus is. But those are some of the players I would maybe be looking to offload to get yourself some Nico Collins. Anything you'd like to add before I show off what he went for in a trade?
Yeah, not really. I love Nico Collins. I was wrong about him as a prospect. He's really shined this year. And with Tank Dell out for the rest of the season, he's going to be, the alpha in the offense, the first read. He's going to be getting the air yards. He's going to be getting the target shares. He's going to be getting the red zone targets. So it's all wheels up for Nico Collins. And you want to get him before you get the full game without him. So like you said, be willing to risk it a down game against the Jets a little bit to, make sure you secure him.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So this is the trade. Jalen Hurts in a 2-quarterback full PPR league was traded for Jahan Dotson, Nico Collins, James Cook, and a 2024 first. I'm assuming this is an early first. How do you feel when you just look at it in general?
Just win, baby. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know I'm talking about buying Nico Collins, but
winner.
It's Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it's Jalen Hurts, but
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't love the package there. I think Jalen Hurts is worth more in a 2 QB league, but that speaks to I'm down on Jahan Dotson and James Cook. While I love James Cook, he's still a 20 to 24 seasonal back with some uncertainty in the next 3 seasons. So that just kind of scares me. That's not really an asset. Clearly you're rebuilding if you're shipping out Jalen Hurts. And so as a rebuilding team acquiring a premium asset like James Cook, you're just going to see a rapid decline in value by the time you're competing. And then Jahan Dotson I'm down on. So it's underwhelming for me. If I acquire Jalen Hurts for that haul in a trade, I'd be ecstatic.
I'll ask before I go into some stuff about these players, if this is the 101, the number 1 overall pick next year, say it's Caleb Williams, say he lands somewhere not the New England Patriots, does that sway you at all? The it's Caleb Williams.
So the first is Caleb Williams.
Yeah. Or just, it's the 101 if that isn't who you want. But say it is Caleb Williams. Yeah.
Now we're talking trade. I'll take Jalen.
Okay. Okay.
That's a classic mistake I'll make, and then I'll be like, yeah, everyone laugh at me. I'm the idiot who traded away Caleb Williams, but it's the end of the day. You know, I have a certain dynasty asset, dynasty cornerstone QB2, and I have an unknown. And if I'm competing in within the next 3 years, I want the known. I don't want a Bryce Young situation where Caleb Williams gets stuck in the worst situation imaginable. And understandably, even though he's a great prospect, he still needs a supporting cast and a competent coaching staff to build him up.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of unknowns with Caleb Williams right now, as much as you want to like him. So if you're contending, it just makes more sense to have Hurts.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Even if you're not,
it's a trade even though, I think. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's where this trade makes a little bit more sense is if it's the 101 or maybe the 102, just like one or top 3, like if you want to say it's Marvin Harrison Jr. and Drake May. But even then, I mean, it's still, I'm with you. I'm going to side with Hurts here. You mentioned being down on Jahan. I'm with you there. I mean, he's only had one 20-point game despite having 4 touchdowns and number 2 in routes run. I mean, he's out there, but he's not getting anything. So he's not very good. And James Cook, you mentioned him being like basically a perennial RB2, 24 in points per game, only 29th in expected points per game. So yeah, he's a bit more explosive than expected, but still there is some uncertainty coming ahead and he's just not doing enough. I will say with Joe Brady, he's been doing a bit better, but I do think those question marks make him a little less valuable than this trade might suggest. Let's go to one of my favorite players in the entire NFL. You put this name on the show sheet. It wasn't me, but Christian Watson, big dog himself. Why are you targeting him for the playoffs?
First of all, let me announce to the public, I'm back. After one podcast of admitting defeat on Christian Watson, we immediately resurrected. We gave up hope literally the week before Thanksgiving. Seth and I talked about it on the podcast. We're like, oh, Seth is just gloating like you're wrong about Christian Watson. I was like, I know. Everyone laugh at me. And then I traded him in one of my main leagues for Gus Edwards, which,
wow, dude,
obviously I regret.
Yeah,
obviously I regret. At the time, Tony Pollard was Roshan Johnson was unplayable. Chuba Hubbard was unknown. So it made sense in the moment, but it's just not looking good now. But Christian Watson is who we thought he was.
Yeah.
He just had to recover for some health issues, and that's why on the show sheet I put pending health issues. So we don't really have a lot of information on his hamstring. I'm actually going to see if there's an update. There is not an update on Sleeper for Watson's hamstring, so I haven't seen one. If he's healthy, if he's going to be suiting up next week, he has a lethal playoff schedule. Giants, Buccaneers, Panthers. They get to play the NFC South.
Right.
Carolina and Minnesota to round out the season. So he has 4 piss poor secondaries that he's going up against in these last 4 games. And over the last 3 weeks, 10, 20, and 27 fantasy points, 7+ targets in 3 of those games. 2 weeks in a row now with 70+ receiving yards, 3 straight weeks with a touchdown. And we saw the 2 touchdown performance in his short 3 quarters of the Kansas City game. This is what we were waiting for. Yes. And it doesn't feel lucky, it doesn't feel like a random stretch of performance. Jordan Love is out there dealing. And I say this as a previous Jordan Love hater, but damn it, he is balling and I'm into it. And you could see this Packers team, this Packers offense come together week after week after week. They've looked better and better and better and better in the passing game. They're trusting Jordan Love more and more and more. He's getting more comfortable. He's not missing those easy throws he was missing in the first few weeks. So I'm all aboard. This is what I wanted to see in the beginning of the year. And unlike, Kenny Pickett and the Steelers, at least I saw it. At least it's happening. And it's progressed after their bye week, and that's what's important to me. There was a significant period in time where that offense started trending in the right direction, and it's been happening for weeks now. So I'm all aboard the Christian Watson train.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I have nothing to add here besides the fact I just love Christian Watson. You could go look at his PlayerProfiler player page right now, and nothing really pops off the page except for his workout metrics where he just looks like an insane athlete. I mean, everything's outside of the top 30, but that doesn't matter. As you talked about, he's just scoring fantasy points at an unbelievable rate. We saw it last year. We're seeing it again. Plain and simple, Christian Watson is good at football. And if you want someone who's good at football, who's going to score you fantasy points, who's undervalued, Christian Watson is definitely the guy for that. Here is a trade that he went for. I think it's an interesting one. He was traded along with a second-round pick for Rachaad White. How do you feel when you see this?
I'm conflicted because these are two players I love.
Yeah.
But it just, there's something about the uncertainty of running backs and what their backfield is going to look like in the next couple of seasons. Christian Watson is closer to a prototypical alpha receiver than Rachaad White is to a prototypical workhorse running back.
Yep.
And because of that, I'm more confident in Christian Watson being able to adapt to the situation around him and get his targets. Plus, he's a receiver, so he is just already getting more fantasy relevant opportunities. Now, Rachaad White, I think, has another year of being the workhorse that he is right now.
Okay.
Let's paint the scenario of, if I'm getting Rachaad White and trading Christian Watson, I am assuming I am a receiver heavy competitor that needs a running back to win. And in that case, I'm all aboard this trade. And then on team B's side, I'm assuming I'm somebody who's probably a little out of it, but doesn't have a lot of receiver help. Maybe I'm one of those guys that has, 3 running backs. Maybe I have ETN, Swift, and Derrick Henry or something. And I don't need Rachaad White, but I need somebody who can give me 25 points in my receiver or flex. That's where Christian Watson and that side of it. So team build has a lot to do with it. Just face value, I would lean Christian Watson.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm going to be honest here. It's the second that puts it way over the top for me. Now, if you look at the trade analyzer, it's pretty close. It has it in 23 points towards Christian Watson's favor. But let's be honest here. That 24-second can literally be Rachaad White. Like, it just the next equivalent of him. And to also get a wide receiver that has so much potential and explosiveness in Christian Watson, I'm going to do this 10 times out of 10. Give me the Christian Watson in the second time. Of course, I'm biased towards Christian Watson. I do really, really love him as a player. But I agree with you in that Rachaad White has some question marks going forward into 2025. And then even in 2024, I still think that there's some potential there for some sort of running back to come in and push him at least a tiny bit. And I think any hit towards especially his receiving production would be massive in terms of his fantasy output next season. And so I think that moving Rachaad White's not a bad move, especially if you can get a potential elite wide receiver like Christian Watson and a fun coupon in that second round pick. Let's remind everyone that also Matty Kiwoom wants to trade for Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I do have a little caveat. He agrees with you here in Cortland Sutton and does want to say that in redraft, he's targeting Jackson Smith-Njigba, and in Dynasty is where he's targeting Cortland Sutton, where, of course, it's going to be even a bit lower just because of his age. I like those moves a lot, getting those players. The final category, in honor of the game plan, we're digging into the bargain bin for people who are cheap right now. 2023 values that will not be cheap going into 2024. I've got JMO. You've got Marvin Mims. Matty Kiwoom was, of course, pulling into his Antonio Gibson bag of tricks. Let's hear about Marvin Mims.
Yeah, so with Marvin Mims, I preluded it earlier. This is really about Jerry Jeudy leaving, and there's the obvious possibility that Denver just rolls the dice again and drafts another receiver or signs a free agent. But lest we not forget that this is the first draft pick that Sean Payton selected for the Denver Broncos in the NFL draft. That means something to a guy like Sean Payton. He's not the type of guy to just dump players around. He signed Traquan Smith for a little bit when he was on the Broncos. That's how loyal he is to the guys that he likes. Definitely. So Marvin Mims is going to get his opportunity, and it just so happens that he is a very similar archetype to Jerry Jeudy, not in the in the traditional sense. Jerry Jeudy is a pure slot guy. He does play outside, and that's where Marvin Mims differentiates himself. He succeeded playing on the outside in college despite his stature. And so he fits that flanker slot hybrid role pretty well. And he's going to step up next season, in my opinion. And reality, doesn't matter what his route win rate is or what his yards per route run is. If he's going to get an 18% target share of the offense next year, 16 to 18% of the Russell Wilson led target share, that's a healthy sum. And he's going to go up 10, 15 spots in the rankings because he's a playmaker. He blocks angrily. He's making special teams plays. He's dynamic. He just hasn't gotten a lot of opportunity to run with the first team offense. We've seen a lot of good flashes from him, but for some reason, he's just not getting the playing time. And I still believe this is to try and showcase somehow Jerry Jeudy. If they bench Jerry Jeudy, they can get nothing for him. And they're still going to try and trade Jerry Jeudy. They do have the opportunity to cut Jerry Jeudy after 6-1. So I will be willing to bet that Jerry Jeudy does not make it onto the final roster for the Denver Broncos in some way, shape, or form. And that's going to open up a vault of Marvin Mims value. So it doesn't matter what he even does with it. The value increase is going to happen because of the personnel change. And so now is a great time to get ahead of that, because never know what's going to happen across the fantasy playoffs. If you wait to the offseason, it could be too late.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% in really everything you said. I think Marvin Mims is a great buy. I believe that Jerry Jeudy is going to be leaving the Broncos next season, and I believe his value is only going to go up. He's right now on Player Profiler, the wide receiver 43, which I think is an excellent just point in general to target. Wide receiver values in general go up a lot, especially from that range. There's always someone who takes that massive leap the next season. Nico Collins, as we talked about in the show already, I mean, if you had bought Nico Collins last season, probably within this range or even cheaper. So I love finding some wide receivers here. Now, I did want to ask, is there anyone kind of in this range that you're maybe looking to swap for at, because we don't have any trades. I could not find any on the trade finder for any of these players, actually, that seemed really worth the salt. So we're just going to make our own.
Good call. I listed some, and then in my monologue, I got lost, and I'm like Michael Scott. I just start a sentence, and I hope I find the end of it. Players I'd swap for, Gabe Davis for Mims plus. Demario Douglas is close, but it might be Demario Douglas plus for Mims. But either way, straight up, I would take that. Mims for Rashid Shaheed. Dotson for Mims plus. We talked about being low on Jahan Dotson. Romeo Doubs for Mims plus. Absolutely prefer the Mims plus side there. And then Jerome Ford, who's almost on my players to trade away list. But Jerome Ford for Mims plus. If you're not a contender, you should be trading away Jerome Ford, just for what it's worth.
Definitely. I think just as an aside, I do think Nick Chubb will be fine next season, who maybe is a buy. As I agree with you in trading away Jerome Ford. And I think that all of these targets are some interesting ones. I maybe have a question mark about Rashid Shaheed, as he's another player I thought about talking for this one. But I just have an archetype, as I talk about here with Jameson Williams. I just like these speedy guys. It is what it is. You know,
I like him too. I'm just gonna gamble on the shorter career. Just the probability that Rashid breaks the mold at this point is getting lower. But wait, is Rashid only a second-year guy, or is he third?
Yeah, second.
All right, that does change a little bit. I was thinking he was in his third year, but I'd still prefer Mims, but it is close.
Yeah, no, he's I think that's like kind of the perfect range too. I mean, I think Rashid Shaheed, we might as well just throw him in here. Maybe try to get him too, as he had a really, really great beginning of the season. And it's kind of slowed down, especially now with this injury. But either way, definitely Marvin Mims, a great target. Mine here is Jameson Williams. I had a different name down here, but I decided, seeing the other names that came in, to bring it within kind of a similar range. As I was going to talk about Andre Iosivas, who I think could be interesting. But Jameson Williams, who right now is sitting at the wide receiver 53. I mean, it's just a player I like a lot. And despite not seeing a lot of targets, especially really all year since returning from suspension, he's still producing. I mean, he's scoring touchdowns. He's getting designed plays. And what I like the most about Jameson Williams is he clearly has his head in the right space right now. I think that was the big question mark coming out of the suspension, is if he was a knucklehead. And I just don't see him being a knucklehead. He is right now one of the best blocking wide receivers in the league. We see him sprinting downfield to clear up space for David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs play after play after play. I see a comment here from Anthony talking about how fast he looked on his reverse last week. I mean, he gets that rushing touchdown. I think that this is a player right now where you see these gadgety usages and you see these sparks. I just think that it can only get better. We have Josh Reynolds, for example, who's one of Jared Goff's favorite targets. His contract expires after this season. Khalif Raymond, since Jameson Williams has returned, has been rendered to basically nothing. We had the big question mark with Donovan Peoples-Jones. He was signed. He has not been utilized really at all. So, of course, there's still going to be target, problems when you talk about Sam Laporta, when you talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, when you talk about what Jahmyr Gibbs needs to get in the receiving game. But still, the explosiveness, the speed, the tenacity, the everything that Jameson Williams is bringing to the Lions play by play by play by play, I just really see that this player has such a bright future ahead of him. And right now, using some players, some ones that you mentioned, Jerome Ford, Jahan Dotson, Tyler Lockett, Demario Douglas, Elijah Moore, Gabe Davis, Kendre Miller, Jonathan Mingo, Khalil Shakir, Romeo Doubs, and of course, the bust man himself, Quentin Johnston, all of those players within his range. And I think Jameson Williams just has so much more ceiling than any of those guys going forward. I know that this is a hot topic that not many agree with, especially on the JMO front, but I did want to ask you, Matt, if you had anything you felt about this guy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna rain on your parade too much.
That's fine.
I'm out on Jameson Williams.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I do recognize the pro argument and I understand it. I'm just not on that side.
I get it. I just like myself some JMO. I like attaching myself to good offenses. I think this is a cheap way to find yourself into that Lions offense with some explosiveness. I mean, it's going to be hard to, pull the trigger on him. But, I mean, we've seen players of his mold break into that, okay, this guy can start every single week. Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown, Tyler Lockett, Gabe Davis, even this season, had a stretch there where he was awesome. But I think Jameson Williams is even better than him. So I am targeting him in some trades.
Yeah, I mean, if his price is Pop Douglas, I mean, I'll take Jameson Williams on my team as much as I don't like him. So, like, if the price is there, then I'm willing to buy. I just don't think he's gonna ever break the mold.
That's fair. I mean, look, he hasn't had. He had one reception last week. I think 2 the week before, and maybe 2 the week before that as well. So it's not like the volume is really there, but he's still getting you at least 7 points per game over the last few weeks, which I think is a nice floor for a guy who is this cheap with so much ceiling going forward. So I'll remind everyone here, some bargains that are bargains now that won't be in the future. Jameson Williams, Marvin Mims, and Antonio Gibson, whose contract is expiring, will either land in the Commanders with a new head coach, as Ron Rivera is definitely not there anymore, or will find himself in a different situation next season. Matt, I think we've done it.
We did it.
I think we've done it. We went through every single category.
We went through all the trades, every possible trade.
That was pretty cool. It's a fun little show here. I did want to really quickly go through the chat as I saw a few questions just get thrown in. Not too many here. Going to scroll back up to the top. Let's see. This is a start question. We're not going to answer a start question. I know I saw a trade question somewhere. Dead air. Gotta get rid of this.
Good radio. This is good radio.
No, I saw trade questions. Where did they go? Just people agreeing with us. We did too good in this show, Matt. Lots of agreeants here in the chat. All right. Yeah, no, I don't see any trade questions. I thought I saw some, but I didn't. So, Matt, I'm just going to throw it to you, man. Where can the people find you? What are you working on? And how you doing? Oh, here we go.
There it is.
Mike Evans. There we go. The 109 or Mike Evans. That's a tough one.
Oh. I would prefer to make that decision like while 1-9 was on the clock. I would like to know exactly who I'm getting for that, but I think there are players that I would consider, and it's tough to answer that without landing spots. So until all of that uncertainty shakes out, I think I lean Mike Evans. But
yeah, I'm with you there.
after the draft is over and everything, I'm sure I'm probably going to flip to the 1-9 side because I'm going to be hyped on somebody.
Yeah, I'm with you there, which is just a great point to mention right now, guys. If you're debating sending away your trade picks, like you're even questioning it, like, yeah, I might want my draft pick, remember how much those draft picks can be worth on draft day. It's a different hype. People want to make those rookie picks. You can get a lot more value on that day. And I'm with you 100%. If I'm on the clock with the 109, I'm not feeling great, I would send it for Mike Evans. Or if I have Mike Evans and the person at 109 is on the clock and there's someone I want there, I would send away Mike Evans, which is just, again, brings home the point in that, you know, you can get some nice value on draft night for your picks. Now we've done it. Now we've talked about the trades. So Matt Babich, where can the people find you and what are you working on?
All right, so you can find me on Twitter at Babich_Matt10. For any audio listeners, that is BABICH_MATT10. I make it easy on you. All right. You can find me on Twitter there. I tweet about a lot of stuff, sports and non-sports related, but feel free to, you know, hit the DMs or anything with any fantasy football questions. Always happy to help out. But and then other than that, you can find my weekly articles on playerprofiler.com/articles. There's me and so many other great authors like Mr. Ed DeLauder does our air yards index every week. So go check that out on playerprofiler.com/articles. And you can find my weekly article, everything you need to know about the week 14 this week. Yeah, week 14. Man, it's crazy.
It's insane. I just don't even
already there. So everything you need to know week 14 will drop Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. And you can find that every Friday. You can find my author page on playerprofiler.com, sift through some of my other work. Yeah. And you can find Seth Dewald, Player Profiler's YouTube manager and lead, and you know, czar of editing, editing czar,
and whatever else he's asked to do, right?
Yeah, I mean he's a journeyman. He's a man of many hats. Mm-hmm. Seth Dewald, my co-host for the Dynasty Roundtable podcast and the creator of the Dynasty Roundtable podcast. You can find the two of us every other Wednesday, so this exact same time slot, 7 p.m. Central, on the Player Profiler YouTube.
Yes, definitely make sure you tune into the Roundtable. If you like trade guys, you'll definitely love the Roundtable. And conveniently enough, it's on the same time every single week. So just go ahead on your calendars, mark down 8 p.m. Eastern, the real time zone, 8 p.m. Eastern. Every single Wednesday, you can find great Dynasty content from both of us here at the Trade Gods, and then, of course, over at the Dynasty Roundtable. If you liked me, you can find me, of course, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Player Profiler YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, doing Wake and Take as we break down the news of the day. And you can find Matty Kiwoom, who's normally here with the Trade Gods. You can find him on Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern on the Game Plan, which will give you everything you need to know to win your week. Make sure you tune into that on Saturday. And then, of course, follow Player Profiler on all the social media platforms. Like and subscribe to this video and channel as we work very hard to bring out great content to you season long, off season long, or the Dynasty in season long, as we love to call it. But thank you all so much for tuning in. We're signing off now. This was the Trade Gods with Jason Allwine and Matt Babich. Y'all have a fantastic evening. Peace.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.